As always, I'm joined by Stocks, my right-hand man. And here we are, Stocks. We're going to talk about the playoffs today. We're also going to break down the... we had everyone vote this week on the awards and that kind of stuff, so we're going to break that stuff down. It should be interesting. I thought it went pretty well. Some help from the Panthers. Again, we have to give him credit. He went through the stats. He went through it with a comb. He picked the best candidates. He put them on the website for everyone to vote. And I think everyone's had a fair amount of time to do that. So I think we should just go ahead and announce the winners, kind of give our analysis and our kind of synopsis about, what we think of that player, how good a year it was, etc. You could even talk about maybe last year, if you remember what you picked last year, and kind of compare that. I remember Eli Manning was our MVP last year, and I know he was in the running. I don't think he pulled it out. So we'll get to that. We also started the playoffs. Unfortunately, we were talking about having the draft on Sunday. That still could happen. It's not Sunday yet. I wouldn't count this league out, because every time you count this league out, we come back stronger than ever. That's apparent with 11 owners, the 12 owners we had a few years ago. So I wouldn't count this league out for nothing, but it's not looking very good, Stocks.
That's fine. We think high and think big, and
you always
happens.
You always want to aim high, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, this league will always pull together. There's talks of a slow draft, which means each player gets on that day, drafts their player, gets off, the next guy comes on. That could work too. We got options, and that's nice. So the idea was to dream big. If it doesn't happen, there's always options. But like I said, the moment you doubt something will happen in this league, that's usually when it happens. And I will say, a lot of people were ready to play. It wasn't a player error, at least today on this front. It was the EA servers went down in the PlayStation community. But weirdly enough, the PlayStation Network was up. But that's another story for another day. I don't know what that's all about. Hopefully the network figure themselves out, that servers figure themselves out, and everyone can get back to playing their games. Because I think once the games get played, Stocks, we'll be moving pretty quick, and we can move on to the off-season stuff and incorporate everyone after that. But I was just looking at the stats of the few playoff games that were played.
All right, well, before you do that, I just need to interrupt you. I got something for you.
We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. What's that? Playoffs? Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
That was coming.
That was coming, and well deserved, because a lot of these teams, we're trying to move it along so quick, and a lot of these teams that are losing, or lost the playoff game, they're probably thinking that right now. Playoffs? I was just in the playoffs? I couldn't win one game? That's what they were thinking. But you called it early on in our Gridiron podcast career, if you will, that Alex was going to be a good addition to this league and a fierce opponent to come down the line in the next few seasons as he molded that Jacksonville Jaguars offense and defense to his liking. And he pulled up a big upset against his rival and his foe in the Houston Texans, 17-38.
Yeah, it's huge. And the big thing about this game was Alex made a trade last year for Santonio Holmes.
Yes, sir.
And it paid off for him. He did his homework. He knew something about this player and how he fits with him, and it paid off for 5 receptions, almost 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the 85-yard bomb. Alex has stolen the show a little bit, and yes, like I said, I had a feeling about him because when he first came out here, he displayed a drive and knowledge and understanding of Madden, and you would look at his team and you're like, oh yeah, he's decent, he's solid, nothing that you would be like, oh wow, he can make a run here. But his play skills and the way he uses Gabbert.
He's fearless, I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and Maurice Jones-Drew ran well.
Yeah.
22 attempts for 100 yards, 108 yards, a touchdown. I mean, he's got the pieces lined up.
I think that's two things. A negative that's always been said about Alex is he doesn't run enough. He likes to throw it too much. He gets a little gun shy, if you will, with the pass. But he gave it to Maurice Jones-Drew this game, and Maurice Jones-Drew, he said, "Thank you. I'm in the playoffs. I'll take it from here." And like you said, he got a touchdown. He broke one for 24 yards. But Blaine Gabbert, oddly enough, broke one, his longest was 30. So I guess the quarterback was saying, "I got tricks for you too." But isn't it odd? This guy just goes out and plays his game. I mean, we'll get back to the Texans because, he obviously put up a fight. He obviously got here, so he deserves some time too. But onto the winner. Blaine Gabbert, the way he uses Blaine Gabbert, he doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. He doesn't care what anyone says about him throwing all these interceptions, about him. He just goes out there and he slings it wherever he wants, man. And you got to admire, I know you being a Brett Favre fan for so long in real life, you got to admire a guy that just lets it fly sometimes. And
definitely.
Blaine Gabbert as the actual quarterback, but Alex as the user, when he sees something open, or if he just thinks it's open, even by, a little bit of a window, he guns it in there. And, he had 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. People say, well, the 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, that's not a good ratio. Obviously, Alex doesn't really care about stats. He just, when he sees something on the football field, he goes for it. And you got to admire that kind of drive, that kind of fight, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely with that, he has trust in his defense then if he does that. You would think 5 interceptions in a playoff game, you'd be toast. But, on his defensive side of the ball, his cornerback Andrews came up with 3 sacks. So he must have been blitzing him, probably from his blind side, from the corner spot. That's pretty impressive with 5 tackles, 3 sacks. Alex has definitely kudos on his defense. He's going to take the risk. He's playing high flying right now, and you can get that done in the playoffs.
Well, we said, I think it was just shy of a week ago, the thing that has to change for Alex or the Houston Texans in this matchup, as we talked about this matchup, somebody had to play defense. Somebody had to play defense in this division. The division winners, the division when they clashed in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, it's always been about defense with this division. Alex, he held him to 17 points. It's not even about the interceptions, the forced fumbles he had. He held the Houston Texans, which most people assume, as especially I would say the best wide receiver core in the game, he held all those duos to 17 points. And he forces 4 interceptions of his own, so that's impressive enough. None of the big time guys showed up. The only guy who really showed up for him, in my opinion, was the tight end, which is probably the least likely of options. So that tells you, he did good on the Andre Johnsons, the Des Bryants. He did good on those guys and forced 4 interceptions.
Well, the main key in this game on the defensive side of the ball is Alex brought pressure.
Yeah.
Alex brought pressure, and he got to the quarterback. He sacked him for 8 times for negative 59 yards lost.
Wow.
That's ball game set over. It really is. Even he threw 5 interceptions. The 8 sacks is what did this game in.
Now I got to give it to Paul McFlesney, man.
Texas won time of possession.
Yeah. Paul McFlesney, though, he had 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, and a forced fumble.
He's your MVP.
If I'm not mistaken, that is a middle linebacker, is it not?
That's a hat trick.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's a hat trick.
I knew Paul McFlesney is a pretty decent guy, and he's great. Listen to this. In the season, Paul McFlesney only forced 1 forced fumble in all of the season that I can find. He forced one in a playoff game, so he was rising his game. Alex was playing good, and when you consider that, I call them Madden game time players. When the game time players come for the playoffs, and then a user, he plays his game, you're gonna win. But going on to the Houston Texans, because like I said, he made it to the playoffs. He deserves a lot of credit for making it to the playoffs because we said it time and time and time again. When you make it to the playoffs in this league, that's an accomplishment in itself. I mean, the playoffs is a wild horse race of a thing. You know that. So when you make it, you deserve a lot of credit. And let's talk about him and give him some kudos, while we can. Because even though he lost, he still made it. And at least he was fighting until the end. See, that moment of silence tells it all, though. With this kind of offense, you'd expect him to kind of at least put up better numbers. But Andre Johnson, I guess he showed up a little bit. He had 2 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. But Miles Austin, I guess he caught 1 ball, so he had 1 explosive play. But just nothing, typical of what you would expect. This quarterback's played a lot better. I think he was in the Rookie of the Year candidates. You wouldn't expect him just to go out there and throw 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, looking over the stats, how his stats look, it looks like to me Alex slowed Andre Johnson.
Yep.
Slowed down Des Bryant. Slowed down Miles Austin. And then the underneath, the only guy he had was Owen Daniels for 9 receptions or 105 yards. Owen Daniels is not the type of tight end that's going to break big tackles,
no.
Carry you down the field. He's not that game explosive, tight end. So I think Alex had a great game plan by taking away those 3 stud wide receivers and just give him everything underneath. Just play that prevent and stay back and be like, okay, if you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me everything underneath. Brandon Tate only rushed for, 69 yards. Pierre Thomas, 29 yards. So the run game was really, really not, it was decent, but wasn't the game-changing, backs that are going to, help a victory.
And we should say that Javid Best was injured for 3 weeks in that game. That's why he was absent. And so that obviously that's his starting running back. Although he does use a crop of those running backs in the game. So maybe that wasn't as big of a deal as if it was a workhorse, a bell cow type back. I will say though, I think the word you used when you said he slowed, Des Bryant and these wide receivers and Andre Johnson's. Just looking at it though, to me, a wide receiver to be dominant, he has to touch the ball. So yeah, Andre Johnson had 62 yards, and Des Bryant had 56, and a lot of those came off big chunks, 39 big yard gains. 39 yards and 57 yards and all these things. But the only guy who really touched the ball was Owen Daniels. And even though, he might have gave up, 39 yards to this guy and 56 to this guy, or, vice versa, he let him have the chunks of yardage, but when it came to, shutting him down and locking him up, he got the crucial turnovers. And that was the key to the game. But isn't that smart, though? Because you're not going to always stop Andre Johnson.
No, you can't. It only takes 1 play for him to break out.
Especially when you got Andre Johnson, Des Bryant. He's even got Josh Cribbs, Miles Austin, who I think is a
Miles
great...
Austin's, he's a starter anywhere else.
Yeah. And he's got all these guys. So let him have his 56 yards. Do not allow the quantity of catches, and I think that's, what he did. I'll give it to the Texans though. He played his game. He probably tried to get it to those receivers a lot, and that's probably where the interceptions and the turnovers came. Again, this game, just looking at it, wrapping it up, it looks like Alex had a few more. Maybe they were lucky breaks or whatever, but it seemed like he got the timely turnovers on defense. His defense probably stepped up in timely situations. And unfortunately for the Texans, he did not. So, good luck in the season to both of these guys. I mean, obviously they're in the same division. They'll see each other again. And these are the type of games in the playoffs and so forth that build the division even stronger. In terms of a rival or in terms of these type of things. So going forth into a third and hopefully fourth, maybe even fifth, if you want to dream, that division's going to be fun to watch.
Well, with that, going forward, the Texans.
Yep.
How would you distinguish this team? Do they have an identity? Like, the team intrigues me. I mean, it's what is it? Their statement is it pass first? You know what I mean? Is it the high flying? Is that what it is? And if that doesn't work, can he still find a way to a victory? That's
in my opinion, I could be completely off base here. I don't play the guy a lot. We talk sometimes in the chat. Looking at it, it reminds me a lot of a faster kind of pace, but more like a Saints, type of thing, where we're gonna have quality backs, but they're only gonna get limited touches. We're gonna rely on big receivers. You see that in real life with Marcus Colston and Jimmy Graham being 6'6". I think that's kind of the mold the Texans wanted to go with. But in real life, and even I know you haven't changed the Saints around a lot, so you can attest to this. The Saints have defense, and I think he's tried. He brought in Keith Bullocks. He's got Bowers from the Buccaneers, the defensive end, who's young, and I think he's got Doomerville. I mean, he's tried to shuffle in these defensive players and make them fit, but I think he's done too much shuffling, in my opinion. He's done too much moving.
Mm-hmm.
I would like him.
You really can't get that feel of all your core guys when you're shuffling so much.
And people say, well, it's just Madden. It doesn't matter. You can trade in free agency, and the idea of chemistry doesn't really matter because chemistry is only an ego, a personal kind of a connection, and you only see that in real life. But then tell me why Manny struggled his first season when he traded, Clay Matthews and Finley. I'm sorry, there's just too much evidence. When you make too many whole-style changes, and I'm not saying his changes are bad, I'm just saying they need time to grow, If I was him, in my honest opinion, he doesn't have to take this, he can throw it in the garbage the moment I say it. If I was him, I would sign all the guys I want, release all the guys I don't. Don't make any more big moves in the free agency. Look in the draft, see how you can improve. But start practicing with that team somehow.
Kind of just put it on hold.
Get a dummy league together and put all those guys you can on the roster. I know you can't get the quarterback, but maybe even go as far as to look at like what kind of stats the quarterback has. And try to maybe bring in a quarterback that's very similar. To a quarterback that you can use. Because I really think he just needs to gel with the team. The team is all set. He doesn't really have even the defensive players. He's got decent defensive players. He just maybe one or two guys. But, Bowers is good as a defensive end. And Doomerville can play, Keith Bullocks, he's probably still got some legs in him. And, Reed's a young, nice player. And, he's got players. Now he just needs to learn how to... obviously, I'm not in the playoffs. I don't have a playoff team, so I don't want to seem too snobby or anything. I'm just saying he's got great pieces. I don't think he's got to do anything else. I think he's just got to learn how to take advantage of those players more often. And I think that speaks to when you have too many good things, too many cooks in the kitchen. Some people say.
Yep, we've used that before. Yep.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's too many, but maybe you just need to rearrange the cabinets a little bit, Shuffle them off a little bit and say, oh, I forgot. There's that spice I forgot I had. Let's try that, And you dump that in your next meal and it tastes great. Maybe he moves, Miles Austin into a role. Maybe he uses, Cribs into a Wildcat. I don't know. I just think, he's got great pieces. He's not a team that needs a lot of moves. He just needs time to kind of grow, and that's all he really needs. What would you say? That's not about right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep.
I mean, he's done good. I mean, of all the boneheaded trades he makes and some of the offers that are just outlandish, you gotta give the guy credit. He really did build a dynamic. If nothing else, it's a really dynamic offense. So, moving on to a game that might have surprised some people, coming out of the gates. It didn't look like the Bills was going to have a great season. And this guy, I talked to him a few times. I think he's actually a Michigan native. He's a good guy. And, he really fought hard. He made some trades. He got D'Angelo Williams, if you remember. He gave up C.J. Spiller and some other pieces. I can't remember off the top of my head. But remember how he had that Brad Smith running quarterback philosophy, and we questioned it last year, and it was kind of our topic sometimes. Like, what's this guy doing? Well, he's doing better than us, Stocks, because he got in the playoffs and we didn't. So,
exactly.
I mean, 7-9. Well, he got in the playoffs. That's not a winning record.
Somebody's got to win the division.
a lot of reminds me a lot of the Seattle Seahawks and the Saints. Maybe Seattle wasn't supposed to be in the playoffs that year, but they got in the playoffs, and I think a lot of people slept on them, and they upset the Saints that year. Now, unfortunately, in this Madden edition, he did not upset the Bengals, but he got there, and so that should be applauded. But back to the
Bills can just take this as a learning experience and build off of it. I mean, like you said, he got in. Doesn't matter how you do. Somebody's got to win the division. He did what he had to do.
Yeah.
He's got nice pieces, and he's just going to learn from it. That's all.
Yeah, I think remember the Bengals made it to the playoffs last year, and I think that experience helped them beat the Bills in this situation. And we always want to give credit to the losing team, and that's what we tried to do with the Houston Texans. And because I'll say this until the end of time. It's a difficult thing getting in the playoffs. I think you should just get an award for making it in the playoffs in this league. Although that was a weak division, he still got in, like you said. But going back to the Bengals, because he's obviously probably going to maybe meet the Steelers in the next round. It all depends on the EA seeding, because EA doesn't do it like real life, or it doesn't do it like anything. Really, EA has a mind of their own, as you know, Stocks. So no one's actually sure how they're going to seed everyone up. I think it should be where I think the Bengals and the Steelers will probably meet, and then Alex will play the other one. But going back, talking about this game real quick, and then looking forward to if the Bengals and the Steelers do meet. That's going to be a dynamic game in itself. But let's look at how we got this game done. A lot of running. Bernard Scott, 200 yards, just over, 2 touchdowns. He probably broke one to the house because it looks like his longest was 75 yards. So, but even then, he got a young kid off the Patriots. I think that I'll let you talk about him. You know a lot more about him, but he got 50 yards in himself. So he ran the ball a lot.
Stephen Ridley, he's a little scat back. It's his second season, and he had a good season this year. He scored 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's 5'11", 225. I mean, just a nice little scat back, and catches the ball very well out of the backfield. Just put up a great game. Just another 1-2 punch for the Bengals. He
grinded it. If you're talking about gridiron gamers, he toted the ball on the gridiron all game, it seemed. Andy Dalton, you wouldn't expect him to run, but he obviously ran very efficiently because he had 4 attempts at rushing, probably out of the pocket. I'm sure he's not running no heavy formation with the Broncos playbook, so it's probably, scrambles out of the pocket. He ran for 42 yards on 4 attempts and a touchdown. And one of them was a 14-yard scamper, so, he got the job done as well. And Choice even got some yards and some rushing attempts. So
yeah, on the defensive side of the ball, Taylor Mays was the player of the game on the defensive side of the ball. 6 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble.
Yep.
I mean, the guy was all over the place. You can't take nothing away from him. He's that hard hitting, strong safety and
Yep.
makes plays.
He did throw some. It looks like mostly underneath to Jordan Shipley, the Texas wide receiver, who came out with Colt McCoy a few years ago. He gave Green a touch. Mostly, if you will, he controlled the game. He was kind of that military general out there who took control of the game and just wouldn't let go. He was going to do it his way, and his way was obviously rushing the ball in this game. I think that's all that really. I mean, defensively, you're right. He made big plays when he had to make them. And what can you say about? I think a lot of people forget about this move. I think he gave up a 2nd-round pick for him. And everyone's like, well, I don't know. That's a lot to give up for an old man like him. I'd have to look at the trade. But he got London Fletcher. London Fletcher had 4 tackles and 1 interception. Now, as old as he is, or whatever you want to say, this team was a playoff team. He was a playoff-type Madden player. He went out and got himself a player who can contribute and make big plays, this year. He wasn't worried about the draft or, next year or 2 years from now. London Fletcher turned out to be a good pickup for him. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we talked about him before. I remember one of our shows we did.
Yeah.
He puts him in the position where, he's going to make a play. He still has, a high overall. He's got good awareness, so that's huge.
I think he gave up a 2nd round for him because of his age. Obviously, he'll probably retire after this year. But, if he's paying dividends in the playoffs, then he was worth it. So, I mean, a 2nd round pick, you're probably going to get a low to mid 70s, and then you got to build them up through years and years of progressions. I mean, then you got a player. This guy, London Fletcher, he can still go. He was a Pro Bowler in real life. He still got great man attributes. This guy can really go, and he can really fly to the ball and make those plays. He's kind of that old guy who's not going to go out there and fly around all the time. But when it comes to crucial moments, the Madden gamers, I say, they step up when it matters. And London Fletcher, I'd like to give him a nod. And to the Bengals, he puts them in the right position, like you were saying. So going on to our last game, and there was some shenanigans after the game about this or that. I mean, you can read about that if you want. Me and Stocks are going to try to stay pretty professional, and we're going to stick right to the stats and kind of the game itself. And, you can kind of be your own victim if you want to look into the other stuff that happened. So, going on to that game, Matt Ryan, another MVP candidate, Gridiron Game Award nominated player, had 5 touchdowns, 375 yards, no interceptions. He was 23 for 27. He didn't give many chances to make a play on that. I mean, that might be the best quarterback. I mean, the best you could play with the quarterback in the playoffs.
Yeah, you can't get. I don't see how you can get any better. I mean just lights out. Lights out.
To assume he would throw 27 passes and be perfect is unrealistic. The way he, just looking at the stats, 23 for 27 is remarkable, and not to add an interception to that. And in all likelihood, it was lucky that Manny was able to score 21 points, and that's not against Manny. I'm just saying when a quarterback is that efficient and he can't be touched, and he's no interceptions, he's not giving your defense any chances. That's just offensively lighting it up, if you will.
No, and then you have Rodgers giving the Falcons 4 more tries.
Yeah.
With 4 interceptions.
Yeah. As I know this game, as watching it in the chat board, Manny was down, I think, 37, I think it was, to 7. So he tried to make that Green Bay late push. Aaron Rodgers tried, forgetting about those, early mistakes or whatever. And I'll give it to him. He tried strapping on that armor or whatever, Manny does. Maybe he flung on that jersey. He always talked about it in the videos. You can see him wear his famous jersey. He loves that thing. I don't know if he sleeps with it or whatever, hangs it up, air dries it, irons it. I don't know what he does to that thing. That's his favorite jersey. I don't know if he put it on or whatever, but he really put in a valiant effort to, come back and make this a game. And so I think we should give some love to Manny right here. We talked about it. We said Manny really made the transition from year one when he made that trade and he had a flux and the running game wasn't effective. In this season, he really ran the ball well, at least in spots. When he needed to run, he ran. When you thought he was going to just be a passer, he ran. He really made you pay for being one-dimensional on defense or trying to stop one facet because you thought that's all it was. In this game, he didn't get those big opportunities that you would expect from his rushing game this year. And I think, although you did talk about the 4 interceptions and the chances he gave back to the Falcons, I think it was about the James Stark factor. It was about, he didn't even give that rookie Fanning any chances at the ball, which, maybe that's because he gets injured or he's fumble risk. I don't know. He didn't run the ball as Manny was doing this season. And so I think that's more of an issue than Manny throwing 4 interceptions.
Oh yeah, when you're down the whole game, you're kind of only have one option, and that's pass.
Yeah.
So that kind of took away from probably Manny's game plan when you went down, big, at halftime. So that's definitely the key factor there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, interceptions will kill you in the season. They'll kill you in the playoffs. They'll kill you anytime. Eat them with green eggs and ham in a box with a fox. I don't care what you do. Interceptions will kill you anytime, anywhere. Any kind of turnovers, any kind of game, basketball, football, turnovers do not equate to good things. And especially in a game like this, it just couldn't happen. And Rodgers threw 4 of them. I think that's really the only storyline here. We can look at some stats. Jones tore it up for him. I will give Manny credit. He stopped Brooks for the most part. The Falcons really didn't rush much. It was more about the pass. I'm more inside passes to the slot receiver, so I'm guessing a lot of slants, a lot of things like that. I mean, that got the job done. So I'm just looking at the stats and everything. There it is. That's the playoffs in a wrap. We do not have the 49ers and the Washington Redskins, but I really don't think there's much point in revisiting this game from a stats point of view, at least. Stocks, because he had to play the computer today, which was unfortunate to hear about. We don't know where the 49ers guy went. He kind of went missing in action, if you will. He just disappeared. So hopefully everything is all right from a personal, hopefully nothing drastic or traumatic happened in his life. And maybe we'll see him next year because he really put in, some good numbers. And he deserved that spot. But, I don't know what happened. It was just unfortunate on both sides because you don't want a computer team in the playoffs. And, you hope that guy comes back and claims his team because he had a good season. So that's
it's just unfortunate. He put all that work in, and now it's not. He didn't get a chance to pay off. And like you said, I hope everything's all right with him on that side.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this portion. The playoffs is kind of going to be advanced, and hopefully, of course, me and Stocks, we're kind of game heads, if you will. We try to deliver quick, great work, and we try to be funny, we try to be great. So hopefully our next edition will be better. We're going to come right back after this with the awards, and we'll break it down and kind of give everyone our opinion on how the awards went, if we thought they should have went that way, kind of report it. It was really fun. I thought we had good turnout, real quick, on the awards themselves. People voting. I think we got a lot of votes, and it ran a lot smoother than it did last year. Pretty much last year, me and Stocks pretty much had to choose it all ourselves because it got all messed around. So we're right back after this. All right, fellas. I was talking with Stocks, and we talked about how this season went a lot better with the turnout, with the votes, and it's really kind of interesting. I want to ask you, Stocks, when you vote for these things, I mean, you don't have to tell us who you voted for on any of these categories or anything, but when you vote, do you look at these stats? I mean, are the stats really important to you? Do you look at more impact of the player? I mean, what do you kind of look at when you vote for one of these things?
Yeah, I'll kind of just browse through the stats because some of them are a little outrageous, so I kind of take that in second guess. But I look at how the player influenced that team for the year. I see, Peter Newcomer didn't have any votes, and the Miami quarterback, Matt Gallo, didn't have any votes. I kind of go back and look and see how, they impacted that team and, see if they deserve a vote by that way, And like the San Francisco only got one vote. He made it all the way to the playoffs with that Ryan Kasla, to a playoff spot. So
yeah,
I definitely I like looking into those things.
I'll tell you, I look at impact of the player. Did he make an influence on the team? That's about 80% of what I vote on right there. Another 20%, whatever, 15% is on stats, because stats are important to a point. But like you said, there's been some shenanigans, we'll call them, this season with the stats. Sometimes the games get out of hand. Some teams don't have as good a defense as others. So I've just never been a stats guy. It's not even about this league, really. I think it's more about what did the player do for your team. If you took that player off the team, would you have that impact? How much does he really contribute to that team? And in that point of view, I think that's why Strong got 3 votes. But like you said, you think Peter Newcomer should have got a nod, because you're right. If you take him off the Redskins, you're looking at what, Ryan Grossman again? Rex Grossman? I mean, so you're right about that. But so let's just report what the other people thought, including us. We did vote on this as well. There was 5 votes for Kobe Ross. I always mess that up. I guess I must be a white boy too much. I want to call him Cody. But he got Ross and Jamie Brooks from the Atlanta Falcons, both with 5 votes. So I guess we got to be the tiebreakers. Hopefully we don't agree or disagree and we're tied again. But I would have to give the nod out of those 2 guys to Ross. He's just a dynamic running back. And I mean, I just think he's the offensive rookie of the year. Looking at his stats, he was running backs is a tough thing to break into. You got AP, you got a bunch of 90+ guys who can do a lot of things. So for a rookie to be mentioned as a top 5, even top 10 for a rookie is pretty impressive. That's why I give him the nod. What about you, Stocks? You got to break this tie.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go with the running back just because of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. The 24 receptions for 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gives me the overall that he can do a little bit of everything pretty well, and that's huge as a running back rookie.
And let's just not slate the tight end. Maybe there'll be another vote. I think voting's open for another day or 2, but so maybe somebody will get on here. They'll vote for Brooks. He'll win the award. I just think like you said, Ross can catch out of the backfield, can he not? So in that regard, what can Brooks do dynamically? Yeah, he can catch the ball, and trust me, he's more a wide receiver than a tight end. I mean, I love his skill set. I always have. I talked about him from the draft till today. So I love his skill set, but is he a blocking tight end? Ross has proved to be dynamic, and the fact that he can run and catch. So again, I vote for him. Going on to the next nominees to the next site. You can pick what we do next, Doc. Up to you.
We can just work our way down.
Sounds good to me. So Defensive Player of the Year?
Sounds good.
And this one's pretty stolen away. I will say Patrick Chung, he had a good year and he got 5 votes for that effort. You can read some of the comments why he got those and why he didn't get those, and some people gave their analysis of why they voted for certain players, but no one really called out on his gameplay that I saw. There was a few late in the season, but no one really stuck to what he did. Some said he spammed the sacks. He was just going for sacks. He was just doing that. He was just maybe, but no one really stuck to the story. When they accuse this guy of something. So I can't do it. I don't think you can do it. And I think it's just really unfair to this guy because he put up a great season. And I'm talking about Cameron Wake. 58 tackles, 33 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. Now, I'll say this. If this was real life, and he put up those numbers, especially in a game like baseball, people would say he was performing enhancing drugs. That's what happens in games like baseball. You don't see it so much in football, but Brian Cushing did use female enhancing drugs. I think it was like a female pregnancy drug. So it does
have that.
What?
Easy with that.
Well, okay. So
you're talking about a player on my team, man. I kind of like guys like that. No, I understand I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
But my thing is, let's get away from the real life and let's talk about Madden gameplay. We don't have the ability to do this, but if he was being able to blow up the line that bad, I think in real life, like the Reggie Whites and stuff, you would double team him. So we really don't have that option to be able to double team a defensive lineman rushing. The only thing you do is slide protect.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really do that, double, chip off, like have a running back chip off, really chip off at him.
Well, my point with the whole, questionable if this is real, it'd be steroid thing was, we've had a lot of people come forward in this game and say this guy does this guy does that, but no one's really been able to prove it. No one's got video of him doing it. My thing is, yeah, he probably did to a point do stupid, not even stupid. Did to a point where he used the defensive end to get sacks when he shouldn't have. Either he should have been rushing, trying to stop the run, and that's obvious in his gameplay, in his season record. He didn't make it to the playoffs. He lost plenty of games, so it wasn't like he was doing something that would make him unstoppable. You know what I mean? So, I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying when he was using Wake for all those sacks, he was obviously giving probably rushing lanes. You know what? He was giving opportunities and other things because he didn't finish with a great record. He gave a lot of things away. So yeah, I think there's more to the story, but I don't know what it is. You can kind of say, yeah, this guy this guy that, but until it's proven with evidence, it's hard to accuse anyone of anything. So he won the award. Based on those stats, he deserves the award, in my opinion. Now, are those stats warranted? I don't know. And I promise I won't hate on Cushing anymore because he's on your team, so I'll take it easy on that. Going down the line, I think we got some more rookies to talk about. Yeah, we got Defensive Rookie of the Year, which so this is a close one, but Justice seems to be winning this award right now. Very close race, almost presidential in the numbers. 41% my rookie, Killer Kinsler as I call him. You know, compared to Justice, both safeties positions. Do you find that ironic, or does it speak to different defensive formations or different defensive players, or what's the deal with free safeties being loved?
Yeah, I just think their speed. You know what I mean? Speed at that position. You're looking at could be a young Troy Polamalu. So you know what I mean. You're covering all the field and you're putting those guys in all specific positions, and they're excelling at all of them. So they're getting a little bit of chunk of everything, stopping the run. All right, you're putting them in a spot for them to make a pick. Okay, they can do that. Sacking the quarterback. So they can do a little bit of everything, and that's probably the case here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if you were going to look at it, I would be right. I think I actually said that right from the start, that Troy Polamalu was a Troy Polamalu in the blooming, if you will. It comes down to this Justice guy had a lot of interceptions. I had a lot of forced fumbles. So they're two different safeties, but they're, like you said, they're very speedy. They're very dynamic. So, I pretty much have to give this Justice. I don't think there'll be that many more votes. And, I think it's pretty much locked up. But it speaks to two safeties. I still can't get over that. I'm sorry. I'm still kind of enamored by that. And that's kind of why I'm pausing and stalling. And you would expect that from like a linebacker, though. I mean, the linebacker in here who had a great year, Simmons, he gets 0 votes. You got a defensive end. You didn't even expect a corner to get it. But these three safeties are dynamic. Like you said, Troy Polamalu in the blooming. So, going on to the... On to the next.
Sorry.
Let's see. Offensive Player of the Year? I think is where we are. Yep. This one's more jumbled up than all of them, but it's Matt Ryan, which I find kind of surprising in all honesty. If you're going to vote for a quarterback in this list, I think it's Eli Manning. He threw for almost as many touchdowns and almost cut the interceptions in half.
Yeah, half the interceptions.
He didn't throw for as many yards, but maybe that means he was in control of more games. I mean, yardage, you can't really blame a guy for that.
I wonder what their quarterback ratings for the year are compared to with those numbers.
Yeah. So, I voted for Adrian Peterson, though. I have to be honest. I think Adrian Peterson really, really affected the game of C-Mays and the Vikings. I think if Adrian Peterson or any running back, even if you want to give him, the next best running back, I don't think he would have had as good a season as he had with AP. I think he just knows how to use AP. AP fits that team, and I think, AP deserved that award. He was a bit of a sleeper, I know. A lot of people didn't vote for him. I only got 3 votes for him, but, that's another one. But, again, Matt Ryan did win the award. So what do you think about Matt Ryan really quick?
Good season.
Again, I mean, we don't mean to be biased, but, we're only human too. I wouldn't have gave it to Matt Ryan, but congratulations, you got the award. We'll send you a little figurine in the mail, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they actually get, man. But congratulations, a round of applause, I guess. Maybe we got to get the video back and do a round of applause so they can see us. That's the reward. I don't know what we can really give the awards, but there they are. I think that was all of them. You know, like I said, I was impressed. Everyone doing the voting this year, that more people seem to vote. They are, in all honesty, they are fun though. It gives you another reason to play the games, and that's cool. But again, there's been a lot of games, questionable games, not just nonsense, but some of the games get out of hand with the stats. So again, I don't base it all on stats. I know some people don't base it all on stats, but it is fun to look at the end of the year and hand out these awards. Is there anything else I'm missing you want to add? Spice up this thing, or are we about done here?
Yeah, that should be about good. You know, it was a fun year, and looking forward to the draft next, and seeing who's going to be the Super Bowl champ.
Super Bowl champ. Any predictions, Madden version? I got Steelers and Vikings.
Yeah, that should be, the AFC's tougher because we don't know much about them, you know.
I think the AFC is top heavy, but there's not as many challenges as in the North. I think the North is more balanced, but I think there's a lot more same level. I don't know. I think there's a lot more challenge in the season being in the North, not just one division. I mean, obviously the Steelers division with Bengals and Steelers, that's a really tough division. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the whole North, I think, as a whole, is tougher than the AFC. But the AFC has better top quality, you know. They're top heavy at the top. So when the playoffs come around, it's kind of interesting to watch because there's 2 or 3 teams, I think, that can win it in the AFC every year, 2 or 3. Now in the North, I think there's probably 4 or 5 that could win it. So does diversity really help? Does parity really help in that? Because, I mean, I guess that's left to be said. That's left to be seen what that really does. But that's interesting for me.
What's intriguing, the 2 teams that I'm going to keep my eye on, though, is, one, the Denver Broncos, just because, you know, we don't talk much about them. You know, he's coming to the playoffs kind of quietly, kind of under the radar. And then you have the team that had a perfect season and just lost the last game last year, the New York Giants. Is it his turn this year, knowing that he didn't go undefeated this year? That's the main 2 teams I'm going to keep my eye out for.
Well, we talked about the pressure valve being off him because he didn't go undefeated this year. He didn't have the pressure. And, I mean, he had a great season, so we still talked about him quite a bit. But it helps being in the North. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of AFC correspondents that we can really draw from. So we don't talk about the Broncos, you're right. Unfortunately, Alex, his time slots haven't matched with ours lately, so we haven't been able to bring that AFC flavor into the mix, if you will. And so, but it's interesting. I think you and the Panthers being in the same division, you must be drinking the same Kool-Aid, man. He thinks people need to watch out for the Broncos as well. So I don't know what you guys are cooking in the South Division in the North, but you guys are both sipping on some Bronco love. So, yeah. So what do you say, Broncos and who?
Giants.
Broncos, Giants? And I say Steelers, Vikings. You know, either way, though, those are 2 great matchups.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, do you think it helps, though? Do you think the parity in the North helps? Because I would guess you'd probably agree that there's probably 4 or 5 teams that could win it out of the North.
I think anybody now, the rest of the teams in it, can make the run and easily, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any... There's really no favorites now because, well, you could give the favorites to the team that have been there. But it's always the team, like you said, that can come under the radar, you know, and just quietly do their business. You know?
Well, what's interesting about that is the Bengals, I think, have lost to the Steelers twice this season. I think in their season matchup, they lost twice to the Steelers. I think both of them were similarly close games, if I can recall. from talking to him and from remembering doing the shows, is this the year where he, doesn't win in the season, but, kind of wins out in the playoffs? Is this the year?
Yeah, when it counts. Yeah.
Yeah, is this the year when the Giants, although he didn't go undefeated, win when it counts? There's a lot of questions to be answered, and that's this podcast and everything. We love talking about everyone in the season, but it's kind of nice just to sit back and only talk about a few teams, because then we can focus on those teams. We can really get deep thoughts about those teams. We can really look at every angle of those teams, and looking forward, it's going to be a fun breakdown.
Yeah, it will be. The next, I like the divisional rounds.
Yeah, it's usually, the wild card is usually the best, games to watch, because you never know. Like, it's kind of that unknown, like, is it going to be good, is it not? When you get to the divisional rounds, in this game, or in real life, it doesn't matter. You got teams that usually know each other, teams that deserve it. There's no, I just snuck into the playoffs, I just slipped into the playoffs. By the divisional rounds, that player, that team, and they belong. So then it just becomes a dogfight to the end. I mean, we're talking about the Steelers and Bengals meeting probably two of the best teams in the AFC, meeting 3 times in one season. I mean, that in itself is
it's gonna be a doozy.
A bloodbath, if you will. Yep. So we're gonna get out of here on this. I think, Stocks. I think you're done. I think I'm done. We're gonna let the guys play their games and come back and give you more. Good luck to everyone.
Peace out.